Srila has brought some very challenging plants for me to do. These are all plants that you can buy from nurseries and garden centers. And this is Juniper chinensis stricta. The Chinese juniper is a huge family. So this one, stricta, means it grows in this vertical, fastigiate style. So the first question that comes to mind is, what can you make out of a plant like this? You know? This is something I would call a no-hoper. That means it's almost impossible to do a bonsai from that. So when I'm faced with a plant like this, the first question I ask myself is, what is the trunk like? Because remember, a bonsai is a tree or a miniature tree, and trees have trunks. As soon as you show the trunk, it will begin to look like a tree. So I can see that the trunk is quite interesting. So let me start by removing some of these lower branches, like so, to show more of the trunk. Forget about the branches for the moment. We will just try and reveal the trunk. It's quite interesting because it's got like a twin trunk. Whether I use the twin trunk or not remains to be seen. Perhaps not. I have a feeling that this may have been two young plants put together. No, it's one plant. But if I don't want to keep it, I'm going to separate the two. Let me just cut it away. Nothing is ever wasted. I hate waste. And I will show you. I can save this plant. So you got another plant. It's got enough root there. So we can plant it up and grow it again for another day. We didn't want that confusing us. So I keep removing more foliage and more branches to reveal more of the trunk. There is no excuse for not being able to make bonsai from anything, because almost every plant has possibilities. And it's up to your imagination to try and create the shape. You need to understand certain principles to be able to create bonsai. And some of these principles, if I keep repeating it, will become familiar to you. So if I can recap, all I was trying to emphasize is that you need to show the trunk. Once you see the trunk, it then becomes more visible or recognizable as a tree. So there's the trunk there, and there are branches there. What do we do with those branches is the question. Then I got to ask myself, do I need that one or not? And how do I see this becoming a miniature tree or a bonsai that resembles a tree in nature? I'm always quite fascinated when I hear people, especially people in America, trying to copy the Japanese. Nothing wrong with that. They keep saying you got to call it bonsai. Well, you call it what you will. You can call it a monkey, but it still look like a tree. That's all that matters. What you call a tree is neither here nor there. We're talking of miniature trees. Okay, I'm not creating a bonsai, I'm creating a bonsai. Okay, so I'm trying to create a tree. This is still a bush. So I need visible branches which are in scale with the size of the trunk. I think that is a bit too low. I'm going to cut it short. In case I want to make a bit of driftwood, I can keep that for driftwood. I may even keep this as a bit of driftwood. The thing is knowing when to stop. As in life, you know, you keep doing a lot of things, you never know when to stop. And that's a bad habit. You got to know when to stop, otherwise you may regret it. And knowing when to stop, I think, comes with experience. You can get carried away, you end up with nothing. So you don't want to end up with nothing, you want to end up with something. So what I have cut so far is still making it look like a bonsai. Now, we always like to think of our creations that look like a tree, and you notice that simply by parting the branches, it's beginning to look like a tree. Do you not agree?
Yes.
By parting the branches, it looks like a tree. So if you did nothing else, but simply wire the branches in place, it will look like a bonsai. So why don't we do that? After all, I'm very conscious that most of my YouTube fans are starting off in their bonsai journey. So doing simple things which you can relate to is what I see as my mission in life. I want you to enjoy the hobby. So again, I always say you can make bonsai as cheap or as expensive as you wish it to be. Fortunately, I have all this amount of scrap wire, so I will keep using scrap wire where I can. But if you were to buy wire, let me just reiterate, there are certain sizes which are very commonly used. 1.5 mil wire, 2 mil wire, 2.5 and 3 are the common ones. This is 2 mil wire. 2 mil is a very commonly used wire, so I'm going to use some of that. Again, if I can remind you till I'm blue in the face, 2-branch principle is what you must always remember. Anchor the wire by giving it a couple of loops there, that's anchored, and then start wiring the other one. A common mistake a lot of people do is they try to wrap the branch around the wire. Never do that. Always wrap the wire around the branch and not the other way around. You notice I haven't taken it right to the end to show that it doesn't matter whether you have enough wire or not. As long as it holds the branch in place, that is all that matters. And then with a pair of pliers, you can always terminate the ends more easily. The pliers is an extremely useful tool. And then you can wire it down. Simply by wiring one pair of branches has transformed the look of that tree. Remembering what it was, straight up, fastigiate is the term. Fastigiate, that means it's like a broom, you know, you have these brooms that you use for sweeping, it's like that. Then how to choose the branches? Choose branches so that you still have space between successive layers. Now, if I were to put this down, I may spoil the look of the tree because it doesn't have enough layers. So, if I wire this down, this is in place, this is okay there, this is also okay there. So I can get rid of this. I will just keep it a short stub in case I want to make it a piece of driftwood or gin. And I'm now going to wire these two. I'm looking for pairs of branches all the time. I have to remind myself that I want some back branches too, because the back branches will give me some depth to set off the front. Okay, so I'm looking ahead to see how I can pair them. Okay, I've got 2 pairs there. Okay, I'll wire those 2. So when you wire them, always take the wire round the trunk. If you come close and see, I've taken the wire round the trunk so that it gives more stability. And then I will do a little anchor, that means wrap it a couple of times, so that's anchored that, and then I can wire the rest. Don't try and wire the entire branch until you have anchored the wire. Anchoring is very important. Those of you who do a type of dance called West Coast swing, there's a thing called anchor. You must anchor your step on number 4. Okay, now what that wire should hold. So that's held. So I've got those two. Look at it, it's looking like a tree. Then I've got these two branches. So let's wire these two and see what happens. Remembering all the time that we're looking for a conical shape. That's the ultimate goal for this tree. Take the wire around the trunk and then provide a little anchor, a couple of loops here. I've anchored the wire and now I go on to the next branch. Remember, you're wrapping the wire round the branch, not the branch round the tree. Having worked with a lot of students, I notice they so frequently make this mistake of trying to wrap the branch around the wire. Bad habit. And then with the pliers we can terminate the wire more easily. And then don't let the branches overhang, but put them so that they look reasonably spaced, not overhanging. So I've got that look now. Now where do I go from here? There are some branches there. I don't want it looking too bare. There is like a twin trunk here. If you look, you see it's forking here, that and that. I won't take it off completely because if I do, I may end up with nothing. So I certainly want something left. So I'm going to wire this back so that it acts as a foil for the front of the tree. So I'm going to wire these two together and that at the top. So let me link. As long as you find two branches to wire together so that you're fulfilling the two branch principle, you should be okay. And then you can just arrange the branch or the two branches however you like. The main thing is to wire two branches together. You notice that there are a lot of brown bits, and junipers, especially this variety, they tend to have this dieback because it's such a dense bush. You remember how dense it looked when we started working on this tree? And because it can't get light, the inner branches do die. So don't worry, that's part of the normal behavior of the tree. Okay, now that we've put the wire on, we can just arrange the branches how we like. I will put a double piece of wire on the apex because I want to give the apex more shape. So I'm going to link this one with the top. I've got to remember that I'm going to follow the same path as the existing wire to make it look neat. So I'm very conscious of that so that I get neat wiring. So let me just anchor this a little bit and then take the wire and wire this other branch here. Neat wiring is the secret of getting a reasonable looking tree. Okay, now we're putting a double coil of wire. So if you come close, can you see when you put a double piece of wire, always follow the path of the same wire. So that's double like that. Okay, I'm going to take this wire right through the rest of the branch, and putting this double piece of wire will enable me to bend this branch or this apex more easily. So you got that. Now let's see what we can do with this. I'm bending it to make it more compact, make it look more reasonable. And then there are these branches also. Now we will use some very thin wire to carry on splaying these branches out to create the conical shape. So we've completely altered the character of this tree. Juniper stricta, stricta means it's growing really tight, has this fastigiate or broom habit, and we've completely altered the habit of this tree, making it grow more open and not like a broom. So the more I'm wiring, the more reasonable this tree looks like. You see, I'm trying to create spaces between the branches so that they don't overhang each other. Just a few more branches and I should be there. I should be complete. So I'm now using 1 millimeter wire. This is the thinnest possible wire that we have, although we do have a 0.8 which is even thinner, but I think usually 1 millimeter should take care of most of the thin branches that you are likely to encounter. And then we can take the apex down rather than shooting up. So this is very typical of some of these junipers that you can buy in nurseries. So this, which is almost an impossible tree, we've made something out of it. So if it has proved anything, it's proved that there is no such thing as impossible material. There you are. So that looks pretty reasonable, and it has a bonsai-like shape. So what are we doing with these bits of driftwood? Rather than cut it off, we're going to just make driftwood with it. So we break it to simulate a branch which is broken by the storm. That is it. If you don't have a knife, you can use the end of your scissors to peel the bark away. I'm always fascinated by people who always insist that you have to use bonsai tools. I keep emphasizing that you don't have to use bonsai tools. How often did I use the branch cutter? Most of my work was done with my secateurs. All right. The scissors are a useful tool to use, but you don't have to use it. So there you are. I've created something virtually out of nothing, and we removed, I would say, more than half the foliage, which were all going up up like that. So that is the nature of the tree, going up like that, and we've opened the branches out to create this shape. So there's another little exercise for you. Okay.